Okay, so here number 7, we're gonna what's the solution to the following equation? So we have to get our terms together, and if you notice, you have an x squared term and you have an x term, so you can't actually combine those together. Let me actually make this a little bigger. Okay, so let me change the view so we can see it a little bit better. All right, so what I'm going to do to solve this is solving a quadratic equation is basically get everything on the same side. So I'm going to move everything to the left side, and the reason I want to do that is because I want my x squared term to be positive. So if I subtract 9x squared on each side, then on the left side, 10x squared minus 9x squared is 1x squared. We still have the plus x over there. Now these 9x squareds cancel out, but we still have the plus 2 on the other side. So again, I just subtracted 9x squared on each side. From here, we're going to move the 2 across, so I'll subtract it, I guess, subtract it. And we get x squared plus x minus 2 equals 0. And that's what we want. And now we're going to factor. So factoring this, if you remember, we discussed AC method, but we don't have to do AC method on this one because we have a 1 right here. So what we're going to do is set up our 2 parentheses. The second sign is a negative, so that means the signs we plug in are going to be opposites. Whoops. So we'll have a negative and a positive, or a positive and negative, doesn't matter. I can just put in my x's. And then we pick out 2 numbers that multiply to give me 2. And since the signs are different here and here, I'm looking for a difference of 1, the number in front of the x. So what 2 numbers multiply to give you 2 and have a difference of 1? Well, that's 1 and 2. And if I want positive 1x, I want a negative 1 and a positive 2. So 2 is going to go in the positive, 1 is going to go in the negative. And that's what this is factored. Now, if you want to double check to make sure we were correct, what we could do is we could FOIL. X times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. Negative 1 times x is negative x. And negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. So you'd have x squared. What's 2x minus x? That would be plus 1x. And then minus 2. So we get right back to what we started with. All right? So as of right now, we have it factored. This is what it is factored. And now we set up basically 2 equations. We can take x minus 1, set that equal to 0, and x plus 2, and set that equal to 0, and solve. So if we add 1 to both sides here, add 1, x equals 1. Here we need to subtract 2, and x equals negative 2. And we see our answer for, I believe that's going to be C. Answer is C on this one. Now, there's a couple other ways you could do it. We could get everything on the same side like we had. So we had x squared plus x minus 2 equals 0. And we could just plug in numbers for x to see which one works. So if I plug in negative 2 right here, negative 2 squared is 4. Then you plug in negative 2 here, that'd be just a minus 2. Then minus another 2. Does that equal 0? And you would say, yep, it does. So negative 2 is definitely one of your answers. But then we would check the negative 1. So let's check negative 1 right here. Okay, we're going to plug that in. Negative 1 squared is 1. Plug in negative 1 for x here. It's going to be minus 1 and then minus 2. 1 minus 1 is 0. Minus 2 is negative 2, not 0. So negative 1 does not work. Where else do we see negative 2 as an answer? Right here. So now let's plug in positive 1 into your x squared plus x minus 2 equals 0. Plug in positive 1. 1 squared is 1. Plus, plug in positive 1 for x, you get 1. And then minus 2. Does that equal 0? And you would say, yes, it does. These are your solutions here. Okay. One last method you could use to solve is quadratic formula. And so quadratic formula is going to be, it's a formula used to solve quadratic equations, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And you identify what a, b, and c are by the coefficients. So here there's A is right here, B is here, and C is here. And you have to get everything on one side equal to 0 in order to identify A, B, and C. So in this case, A equals 1, B equals 1, and C equals -2. Okay, the 1s are the coefficients here. So I'm going to plug that in. If I have negative B, that's going to be -1, plus or minus the square root. Now keep in mind B is 1. If I square B, if I square the 1, we're going to get 1 here. -4, and then we're going to do A times C. So I'm plugging these numbers, A, B, and C, into this. Okay, I plugged in 1 in for B. That's what gave me the -1. Okay, 1 squared gives me the +1 here. -4, and then I got to do A times C right there. Well, A times C, that's 1 times -2, that's -2. All over 2 times A on bottom. Well, A is 1. See 1 up here for A. 2 times that is 2. Now we finish up. -1 plus or minus. What do we have in the parentheses? We have to take -4 times -2 first, which is +8. And then 1 plus 8 is 9. So we get the square root of 9 over 2. The square root of 9 is 3. So now we're going to have -1 plus or minus 3 divided by 2. -1 plus 3 is 2 divided by 2, which is 1. -1 minus 3 is -4 divided by 2, which is -2. And those were the two solutions, -2 and +1, that we originally got right here, actually, at C. So there's 3 ways you could do this problem.